Well, after a relatively chaotic week one and relatively upset heavy week one, time to dive into week two and figure out who will stay on track, who will bounce back, and who will dive one step closer into the tankathon. Before we do, I want to quickly say if you are new, subscribe, it'd be greatly appreciated. Leave a like and comment down below your thoughts. Now let's get right into it. We begin with Thursday night football as the Washington Commanders make the trip to play the Green Bay Packers. Packers are 3.5 point favorites in this game, and they're coming off of an incredibly impressive win over the Detroit Lions. Jordan Love played well in that game. The entire passing unit played well. The ground game played well, led by Josh Jacobs, and the defense held this high-flying Lions offense that was last year to just 6 points until the garbage time touchdown. That was a miraculous touchdown grab for Detroit there. Meanwhile, the Commanders coming off of a 21-6 win over rival New York Giants. And it was a solid win. The defense looked much improved compared to what they were last year. The offense left a little bit to be desired. I do have the Packers winning this game. Big part of it is that this is going to be in Lambeau Field. The Packers are a very nice team when playing in Lambeau, and they're just the hotter team. They're riding the hotter hand with that win against the Lions. They're going to sail into this. Micah Parsons might have a pretty solid day in this one, but I do have the Packers winning this game. To begin Sunday's slate, the Jacksonville Jaguars make the trip to play the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are also 3.5 point favorites in this game. And the Bengals' performance against Cleveland in week one wasn't the greatest. They narrowly escaped with that win, 17-16 win. The Bengals do have this tendency to start off slow the first 2 weeks, and they kind of avoided it there. But still, you kind of expected more out of that offense. D. Higgins and Jamar Chase were not really involved with that game plan. Chase Brown played pretty well, and Burrow was going to do something every single week, and he played well there. The defense was a massive improvement. They played a lot better than I thought they were going to, but it also was against Cleveland. Jacksonville had a good win against Carolina, even with that weather delay. Travis Hunter showcased a little bit in that game, nearly had a massive touchdown grab, but JC Horn had a great pick. So I do have Cincy winning this game. I'm just leaning towards them. It's in Cincy, their first home game of the season. But I could see this being a very close matchup, just like the Cincy Cleveland game last week. But at the end of the day, I do think Cincy is kind of shaken off their early starts jitters now, and they're gonna win this game and they're gonna win this game one way or another. The New York Giants make the trip to play the Dallas Cowboys, a game of which the Cowboys are 5.5 point favorites in, and the Giants had a very tough loss to the Commanders. The offense did not play well at all. Russell Wilson looked rough out there, only putting up 6 points, and Russ is in line to get the start again this week. I'm curious to see how much longer that will last. It was a defensive unit that played fine. We definitely could have gotten away with that one and win that game, but the offense did not give them any help whatsoever. Meanwhile, Dallas had a very tough loss to Philly last week, a game of which that the offense played great in the first half, the defense played great in the second half, but they couldn't get them both going at the same time. But if Dallas can, they're going to be a really good team, and this is a good week to bounce back in. So I do have the Cowboys winning this game. I think they'll bounce back, and they're going to ride the momentum they get from this game into the rest of the season. Meanwhile, the Giants, again, I'm very curious how much longer Russell Wilson will be the starter there when you have Jackson Dart waiting in the wing. Because if Russ continues putting up performances like he did in week one, we might see Dart a lot sooner than even I expected. But we will see. But once again, I do have the Cowboys winning this one. The Chicago Bears make the trip to play the Detroit Lions this week. The Lions are 5.5 point favorites in this game. And both teams had tough losses the week prior to divisional foes. The Lions, they got pretty much dominated against the Packers. Offense was never able to get anything going consistently. They weren't able to finish drives they were able to last year. It looked rough and it looked like they're still trying to find their footing. The defense, I felt like the defense played fine. Maybe would have wanted a few other things to help out there, like maybe some turnovers or some better pass rush. But they played fine and they were keeping the offense in this game. Meanwhile, Chicago, I don't know how they lost that game on Monday night. They gave up 21 points in the fourth quarter. The offense just failed to be able to move the ball much after they put up the opening drive touchdown. And the defense, eventually, they faltered. The injury to Nashawn Wright did not help on the secondary side of things. But I do have the Lions winning this game. The Bears have been struggling within that division for the past like 5-6 years. I don't think it's going to help going against Detroit when they're coming off of a bad loss. The Lions will be playing angry, playing fierce, and looking to bounce back. And I think they'll do just that. So I have the Lions winning this game. Los Angeles Rams travel cross country to play the Tennessee Titans, a game of which the Rams are 5.5-point favorites in. And the Rams had a good win against Houston last week. It wasn't the most flashiest of wins, but the defense is what shined, exactly how I thought they were going to shine. They were able to get pressure on CJ Stroud, make things difficult for that Houston offense, and they carry that into a offensive performance that, yeah, only put up 14, but that was enough for the win. Now they're going against Tennessee, who had a tough loss against Denver. They very easily could have won that game. The defense forced 4 turnovers. The offense was able to move the ball, but couldn't finish drives in the end zone. And eventually, just the play calling and drops lost them that game. So I do think Tennessee will be fine after everything, but I do still have the Rams winning this game. That front seven of the Rams is a fantastic front seven. We saw it against Houston last week. We're going to see it again this week. And until that offense finds a little bit more of a chemistry with it and gets their foot in a little bit more, they're going to be winning games defensively. And this will be probably another one, but I definitely could see this being a 2-score game. But I do have the Rams winning nonetheless. The New England Patriots are heading south to play the Miami Dolphins this week. The Dolphins somehow find themselves at 1.5-point favorites in this game. I'm going to start with New England. And they played a pretty okay game against the Raiders. Geno Smith kind of threw the ball really effectively against them. But for the most part, I feel like the Patriots played about how you expected for a team that is still trying to figure out their identity. Mike Vrabel was his first game coaching there in New England. Drake May, it's the first game of his second year. How is he going to progress from what he did last year? The Patriots are in this point where they're still figuring out things about the identity of their team. So it's fine. You were not expecting a massively great performance in week 1. Miami, on the other hand, that was an utter embarrassment of a loss. Absolutely abysmal. Go check the post-game video I did on that to get my full thoughts on it. But simply all I can say is this: if I thought the last week game was must win for Miami, this one is definitely must win if people want to keep their jobs. The only thing that I'm holding out hope for Miami this week is the fact that Tua Tagovailoa has never lost to the Patriots in his career. So I'm picking Miami to win this game. I will be picking Miami most if not all of this season because I am still a Dolphin fan. I would like to see them win. The easiest thing to happen is that Miami loses all their games, but I don't want that to happen. I want to be able to enjoy watching this team. And Miami has yet to lose to New England when Tua Tagovailoa plays. He's still set to play in this game, so I'm still picking Miami to win. The San Francisco 49ers at 4.5-point favorites travel to play the New Orleans Saints. The Saints had a pretty tough loss to the Cardinals last week. It was a game that they definitely could have won in. They had a missed kick. They had some offensive inefficiencies. But all of that was kind of to be expected from this team this year, with Spencer Rattler leading the way. The defense surprised me a bit. I was not expecting them to hold Arizona the way they did. I felt like they played well, and this was a game last week that the Saints out-yardaged the Cardinals. They definitely could have won that game. San Francisco coming off of a pretty tight win against the Seahawks, but the biggest takeaway there is the amount of injuries that have already piled up for the 49ers. Kittle's going to be out multiple weeks. Purdy is dealing with 2 separate injuries. McCaffrey is still banged up. This team is already battered, and we're 2 weeks into the season. So with that, I'm going with the upset. I'm picking the Saints to win. The Niners were my pick to win the NFC West, but the amount of injuries already piled up is having me scared to pick them, especially with how off they looked when Kittle was out last week against Seattle, and the fact that more guys are still coming in as banged up. I'm going to lead the Saints, who would at least surprise me in a losing effort, whereas the 49ers disappointed me in a win. The Buffalo Bills travel to the New York Jets in what is technically an in-state rivalry, though not really. The Bills are 7-point favorites in this game. That was a very improbable win for Buffalo last week. Josh Allen is still very much that dude, as is Ed Oliver and Gregory Rousseau and most of that members of that Bills defense. A very nice way at the tail end of that game to lock in and get the stops you needed and let Josh Allen do his thing on offense. The Jets thoroughly surprised me with how effective their offense was against the Steelers defense last week. 32 points is very impressive. Justin Fields threw and ran the ball pretty well. Braylon Allen had a solid game. Garrett Wilson, always going to have solid games. That defense is definitely cause for concern, but they were also going against an Aaron Rodgers that is seemingly back in his prime all of a sudden. But at the same time, definitely a game they probably should have won. Chris Boswell hit an insane kick. I do have Buffalo winning this game, though, mainly because Josh Allen is that dude. He has pretty much owned every team in the AFC East since he has really hit the ground running in his 2019 season. So with that, I'm picking Buffalo to win and continuing on their streak of dominance against the AFC East. The Seattle Seahawks make the cross-country trip to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are 2.5-point favorites in this game. The Seahawks, I was not expecting a lot out of them in week one, but even then, they kind of disappointed me. Sam Darnold really struggled in that offense, which again, I was expecting, but not to that degree. And the offense as a whole really couldn't find a footing. The defense played really well, which I was expecting. I mean, you know that defense is going to play really well, probably one of the more underrated defenses in the league. So the fact that they played really well is a good sign. The Steelers, their defense played really rough, which you weren't really expecting out of them. But I feel like they're going to have an easier time going against Sam Darnold than Justin Fields. The offense of the Steelers, they obliterated my expectations in week one. Aaron Rodgers looks like he's back in his prime. DK Metcalf, Pat Fryermuth, Jonnu Smith, they all got in the action. This was an incredible game for that Steelers offense. And Chris Boswell with a cherry on top, looking like he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer at some point. And he drilled a 60-yard kick for the win. I do have the Steelers winning this game. It is their home opener. Aaron Rodgers is feeling good. He's feeling young again, apparently. And I really doubt the Steelers are going to let this game get away from them. And I do have the Steelers winning it. The Cleveland Browns make the trip to play the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are 11.5-point favorites in this game. And I just feel bad for Cleveland in this week. They had that very close loss to Cincinnati. You think you're feeling good. Maybe we are a better team than we anticipated. And then you see the Ravens lose the way that they did, and the fact that they play you next. The Ravens are going to hold nothing back. They're going to play angry. They're going to play fierce. They're going to play like the Browns owe them money, and they very easily might after this game. I do have the Browns winning, and then the Ravens winning this game. I have the Ravens winning. And yeah, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry are going to go off. That offense is going to go crazy. That defense hopefully takes a step forward in the right direction since they're not playing Josh Allen and his MVP level talent. They're going to be going against Joe Flacco. A little bit of a reunion there, but that game's happened multiple times by this point. Yeah, the Ravens, they're going to hold nothing back. They're going to win this game. The Denver Broncos make the trip to play the Indianapolis Colts. The Broncos are 2.5-point favorites in this game. Started off with the Colts. They played incredibly well against Miami in week one. I will give them all the props in the world for that. They thoroughly surprised me with how well they protected for Daniel Jones, how well Daniel Jones played, period, and how well that defense was able to play against a Miami offense that was expected to at least be similar level to what it was last year, and maybe not at this point. Denver was a very weird game against Tennessee. They turned the ball over 4 times. Bo Nix struggled a bit, but they still managed to play well and get the win because of that incredible defense that looks like it did not miss a single step. So because of that, I do have the Denver Broncos winning this game. This will be a much tougher test for the Colts this week, which is a very weird thing to say, but I do think the Colts can keep this one close, especially if that Denver offense stumbles out the gate once again. But that Denver defense is just too good for me to not think that they're going to be just fine, even if this offense is sluggish to begin this season. I think they're going to handle this one just fine. The Denver Broncos will win this game. The Carolina Panthers are going to the desert to play the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are 6.5-point favorites in this game. This is a very interesting game to me as a whole. Carolina is still a team, even with that loss to Jacksonville, that I feel like could compete for that NFC South division and could definitely play a lot of teams very close this year. Arizona didn't give me the offensive performance I wanted out of them in week one, but the defense still played really well, and Will Johnson looks like a steal of a draft pick in that second round. So with that, This is going to be a very close game. I don't think 6.5 is quite right. I could see this being a 3 to 4 point game that comes down to the very end. I do still have Arizona to win this game. I'm leaning them because this is in Arizona, and I do think that the Panthers defense is gonna struggle against Kyler Murray in this one. I don't think they'll be able to really contain him the same way that New Orleans was able to. But I do still like Carolina. I think this would be a closer game, but it is tough for me to pick them to win when the offense just didn't really show that it really much improved from the last year. Again, the last year Carolina offense looked good in that second half. Question was, could they do it for a full season? The answer seemingly is no. So I have the Arizona Cardinals winning that game. It is game of the week, the Super Bowl rematch. The Philadelphia Eagles at 1.5 point favorites travel to play the Kansas City Chiefs. This is going to be an incredible game. Philly coming off of that really nice win against Dallas. That was closer than I expected, but they still played well. The defense really locked in that second half. The offense looks solid. Saquon Barkley is still Saquon. Jalen Hurts was using his legs really well. I would like to see them get A.J. Brown a bit more involved, but it could very easily be tough against this KC defense. The biggest add, Jalen Carter will play in this game, and that's going to massively improve that front seven for Philly. And that's going to throw some wrinkles into this Chiefs offense. The Chiefs did not play the greatest against the Chargers. They struggled a bit. Not having Xavier Worthy for the foreseeable future really hurts this offense. And it was a defense that did not play great against Justin Herbert. So I have the Eagles winning this game. I was tempted to pick Kansas City, the bounce back game, be able to bounce back, play angry, play fierce, do what you have to do at home. But this was the Eagles team that completely shut down this Chiefs team in a Super Bowl a few months ago. And then they both came out week one and had completely different showings. So I have the Eagles winning this game because I just do think they are the better team. Sunday night football, the Atlanta Falcons travel to play the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are 4.5 point favorites in this game. And this game, all of a sudden, it looks a whole lot better than I thought it was going to entering Monday Night Football. And it's mainly because of how the Vikings played in that fourth quarter against Chicago. The defense really locked down throughout that entire second half. The offense finally got things clicking. McCarthy was hitting his guys, especially Justin Jefferson. Finally, ground game was going well. This Minnesota team took a little bit, but they found their groove offensively. They're going against a Falcons team that nearly beat Tampa in week one in what was a pretty nice game that came down to the wire. Michael Penix played really well in this game. The defense played solid. I am kind of shocked the line is 4.5 in favor of Minnesota. I have Atlanta winning this game. I think that they are set up pretty well. If they can get other pass catchers involved, like actual receivers instead of just Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson into the pass game, they're going to be a really tough offense to stop because they have the pieces to be a really good team. They just need to put it together, and they nearly did against Tampa. I think they're going to be able to in this one, but I do think it will be a close game nonetheless. The first of two Monday Night Footballs as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to the Houston Texans, with the Texans being 2.5 point favorites. Another line that I am shocked in. The Houston did not play well last week. Their defense, sure, they say they played fine, but that offense really struggled, in part because they couldn't keep CJ Stroud upright. Their offensive line is a massive weak point to this team, and with them not having Joe Mixon still, it's not going to make things easier. I like what Nick Chubb showed last week, but it won't be as easy this week. Tampa, yeah, the passing game didn't play the greatest, only 167 yards, but it was a 3 touchdown day. Emeka Ejbuka played really well for his first start. The ground game left some cause for concern, but Houston's ground defense wasn't the greatest in week one. And Tampa's defense is a pretty solid defensive unit that the only reason it looked rough against the pass was because they couldn't guard Bijan Robinson out the flat or Kyle Pitts over the middle. This is a game that I have Tampa winning, and I feel pretty good about it. Tampa is still, to me, the top dog in the NFC South. Meanwhile, it kind of feels like Houston might be losing that status in the AFC South. This would be a really good game nonetheless, but I do have Tampa coming out on top. And finally, the Los Angeles Chargers at 3 point favorites travel to the Sin City to play the Las Vegas Raiders. The winner of this game, very likely or very possibly, could be sitting alone on top of the AFC West. The Chargers, with an incredible win against the Chiefs last week, played really well, surprised me with their play. They're looking like true contenders for that division now. Justin Herbert played really well. That defense played well. Amarian Hampton looked really nice in his first start. I liked what the Chargers were able to show. The Raiders, I feel like they played solid against the Patriots. The stat sheet doesn't really shine bright, but Geno Smith played really well, played really surgical with his passes. The ground game left a little bit to be desired, but I feel like Ashton Genty will be able to hit the ground running eventually. And the defense played solid. This is going to be a very tight game. It's divisional foes. Those games are always tight, but I do have the Chargers winning this game. Dude, it does not get that much higher of a hot hand than beating the Chiefs when no one really thought you had a chance to. The Chargers surprised a lot of people, including myself, and they're going to be able to ride that for as long as they need to, or as long as they can. And I do have the Chargers continuing that hot hand into this game and taking away the win. Okay, so there you have it. My thoughts for week 2 of the NFL season. Let me know your thoughts down below. Subscribe if you're new, greatly appreciated. Then leave a like. I'll see you all next time. Have yourselves a damn good one. Peace.